Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Namaste. My name is Sadhana. I am an intuitive reader and healer. And today I'm here to share with you just a little bit about energy healing. And I want to give you some really basic steps to help with your own hands on healing and how, with the power of intention, you can make some really subtle changes in your life that are going to make you feel a whole lot better. If you're interested in learning more about the work that I do, there's lots of links in the description box below. So, first of all, I thought I would start with the notion of space and where it is that you are conducting energy healing. This is something that I do every morning when I wake up. And so I'm arising from a deep sleep. There's no fussing with changing of the sheets or clearing the room or playing of sound bowls. So when I say clear space, this is generally I want to say a lifestyle concept that pretty much everywhere in my house is a place where healing can happen, and that the flow of energy is really important. That space is cleared on a regular basis. That means that windows are open, air is circulating, things don't tend to accumulate, and I endeavor to, of course, clean and do things like that as well too. I try to, as far as the washrooms go, I make sure that washroom doors are closed. Things separating high frequency from low frequency energy kind of makes sense to me. I've had lots of really interesting stories told about the thoroughness, and this is one that has always stuck with me, why it is so important to clean your kitchen before you go to sleep at night. And I'm sure you could bring in lots of associations, well, you never know who's going to show up at your front door. But also, it has to do, I think, with clearing the energy for a peaceful night's sleep, especially if you're in a small space. And the whole idea of mess and clutter and dirt and dishes and all of that is not conducive to a beautiful flow of energy. And so when I go to sleep at night, yes, there may be a pile of folded laundry in my room, but I do my best to have things clear, clear. It's just so very, very important. And in the space that I am right now, so before I went live, I went and I cleaned my mouth. I opened the window, lit a candle, took a few deep breaths. And so there's this sense of if the frequency is high enough, then things are going to be easy to do. Okay. Can you do energy healing anywhere? Could you do it in a completely chaotic space? And the answer is yes. The more that you practice, the easier it becomes and the easier it is to dial it in. And I think this is the steps that I'm giving you are important if you're new to this. But this is something that I do as much as possible. Okay. I also have a clear quartz in my hand. If you know me and you follow me on my channel, I often have some medallions or other energy. I wear energy clearing wrist malas around my neck. I have things that are energy clearing right here in my space. And so, regardless of what I'm doing, I may be washing the dishes in my kitchen. I have energy clearing crystals, inspirational things on my kitchen windowsill so that energy is always circulating. And for the most part, clear is the easiest to work with when we're doing energy work. but I am going to talk about solid stones and grounding in just a moment. Okay. So the second step, and I want you to know that this can happen in a single breath. And probably one of the most powerful things you can do, especially if you drive a lot, if you commute to work, if you have a lot of children and you're always dropping them off here and there. One exhale breath before you get out of the car can make all the difference in the world. So you turn off the car, don't even take the keys out of the ignition, put your hands on your lap or the steering wheel, close your eyes, take a full breath in and a full breath out, and then go as fast as you need to go. But there's just something about landing that is so very important. So I was sharing with you that I do this, I do Reiki on myself in the morning before, often at night as well too, but in the morning. So I might be on my side or some weird position. And so what I do is I wiggle around and get myself on my back and make sure I don't have too many pillows on my head, because ideally when you're doing healing work, you want spinal alignment. And that doesn't have to be perfect, but it is optimal for energy healing. And then I take a few breaths in and a few breaths out. And so I just land there in my bed, find myself in a comfortable shavasana position, the position that you would practice in at the end of yoga, right? So with your legs apart, your arms resting at your side, facing up. So it's a great position to settle into, to ground. Now, sometimes I am also busy. I'm out in the world. I'm working. I'm teaching. I'm with family. And one of my favorite ways to regroup, and ground, with besides wearing protective jewelry, malas, is to have rocks in my pockets. And I am a great I love rocks. These two rocks actually I collected, and they were in my um, they were part of my mesa, my shamanic mesa. They are no longer there because my mesa is no longer activated. But these kuyas have been with me for a long time. They're both sort of round. One is white, one is black. And this, of course, represents something. Depending on your familiarity with light and dark and white and black and all of that, um, they balance each other out. And if you think about the yin and the yang symbol, this creates a sense of balance. And you can put black in left, which is black in receptive, which is this kind of matchy, white in right hand, which is active energy, or you could have them in the opposite hands, which ideally would perhaps feel a little more balancing if that's what you needed. And so I often have rocks of conscious choice in my pockets. And when I'm feeling a little distracted and I need grounding, that is something that I go to. And I will pick up the rocks or just very subtly. This could be at a business meeting, and I could just put my hands into my pockets and touch my rocks. Take a breath in, take a breath out, and feel a whole lot better. Hello, Danielle and Patricia. Thanks for joining me here. So these first two are part of self-healing and self-care. To me, and this has been, and like I was saying, clearing it is it's a lifestyle. So if you can scratch off the idea of housework, right? And think about clearing space, cleaning space as energetic work. It takes on a new frequency, and you do it for different reasons, because you want this sense of lightness, movement of energy, and wellness in your environment. I'm not kidding you, it does. This it's like a light bulb, a light switch in the brain to consider that. Of course, I'm gonna put these I have 5 steps, and they're all gonna go together. We're gonna talk about hands-on using hands as well too, but these first few steps are equally important and can be brought into your day. So grounding is about, I don't know, if you can kick off your shoes and put your feet on the ground underneath the table at work, that might help feel might help you to feel so much better. I'm sure you've heard about when you are traveling and you go into the hotel room, you take off your shoes, you scrunch up your toes on the carpet, and then you release. So this whole idea of landing is really, really important, and I use landing simultaneously with grounding. Ideally, you could actually lie down on the earth. That is an amazing experience to connect with the earth itself, the natural earth, not the concrete, but the sand or the dirt or the grass or something, because that's very, very powerful. The whole idea of touching trees and or sitting with your back against a tree is an incredible experience. And the more you practice, the more connected you feel, and the faster you can dial this in. But you don't have to be in nature. You just need to understand the principles here. So, no tools, exhale breath. Focus on the exhale breath. Landing. You can focus on the physical weight in your body. So, focus on the lower body, the settling of the leg. All right. So, grounding. Grounding can happen anywhere, anytime, any place. Focus on the exhale breath. If you can connect with nature, either by having rocks in your hands or you can put your feet in the grass or something, all the better. All right. All right. Let's go on to the third one. Breathe. Okay. So, or breath. Breath is really important. I cannot say enough about learning how to breathe. If we don't know how to breathe fully, it is a hazard to our health and to our wellness. This means that for the most part, both nostrils are usually quite free and clear. The chest is clear, and we are able to walk and talk at the same time, so breath um, breath is vital. Breath is vital to keeping a clear mind, to the processing of food in our body. It's essential to our happiness and feelings. It's so very, very vital, and of course it's vital to life as well too. And so I was mentioning how breath can be a component of grounding, simply taking a deep inhale and a deep exhale. But I want to go a little further than that and beyond what I mean by that, and how learning to have a full breath can really, really help. And I encourage you to practice this as many times a day as possible if you don't breathe well. Okay. So most people breathe in their upper respiratory system. They have one nostril or a partial nostril that's clear. Breathing is generally shallow. A lot of people breathe through their mouth. And eventually we want to transition so we're not breathing through the mouth, we're breathing through the nose. This has to do with conservation of energy. And no matter how much work, and I'm talking like physics work, you are doing, that your mouth is closed and you're breathing calmly through your nose. That's sort of what you're working towards. The whole body is participating in the breath. The energy is conserved, and we're not struggling with breath through the mouth. And this is entirely possible for anyone, regardless of um, health condition. This is something that I work with individuals all the time. And as a yoga instructor, primarily, I'm working privately with clients right now. And this is just a really fundamental component to yoga. to health, to wellness. The best way to learn how to do this is in a calm and relaxed environment. So, probably in your bed, if that's a comfortable place for you. You can do it on your sofa, you can do it on the floor. Ideally, you want to learn to get comfortable with lying on a harder surface. You can bring more comfort to that by putting a blanket like on top of a yoga mat, making it a little more cushy. You can put bolsters underneath your knees. You can support your head a little bit, but the thing is, you don't want to have your head, your chin into your collarbones. You want to have alignment through the spine. So no matter where you are lying, whether you're in your bed or you're on a yoga mat or, whether you're sitting, you want to be conscious of alignment, through the crown, through the top of the head, all the way down through the spine. So this is something and this is fundamental to breathing. Right? The body needs to be in alignment. You can't breathe well if the body isn't in alignment. This has to do with the tilt of the pelvis, right? So the pelvis is a really important part of aligning the body. And so the spine is in alignment and the neck and the head. And this has to do with being able to breathe through the nose. We can't breathe through the nose well if the neck is restricted, right? So the head needs to be in alignment. And so if you're lying on your back and you are completely relaxed and you are in optimal alignment, then I would say the best thing to do is to put one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. Now, if that isn't possible, you can put a cushion, a pillow underneath elbows. So it makes it a little easier because sometimes that feels awkward, especially if you're lying in bed. And so one hand on the heart space, one hand on the navel center. And when I say belly, I mean navel center. This is the anatomical frontal point of the solar plexus chakra, of the Manipura chakra. And with one hand on heart, one hand on belly, you can begin to observe your breath. And you can just start with one hand on the heart if you like, and to observe the rise of the chest with the inhale breath and the softening of the ribs with the exhale breath. And you begin to observe. And this is, of course, we're not shoulder breathing, right? We're observing the expansion of the chest. One of my favorite things to do with picturing the breath in the chest is to find a point in the center. So you find a point behind the sternum, in front of the ribs, so in the physical center of the chest, halfway between, right? So you're halfway between the rib cage, halfway between the front and the back of the body. And from that point, I observe the ribs moving forward. I observe the right rib cage moving out and in with my breath, not that fast. I observe the movement of the left rib cage. I observe the movement of the back rib cage. And I may do this a few times. Front, right, back, left, front, right, back, left. And then I may observe only back, especially if the back is not moving. And then I will try to find stillness and observe the breath moving in all directions equally. So it's like how can I just do this, right? So this is the little dot that I'm visioning in the center of my chest, and I'm imagining my breath radiating out in all directions equally. So it's like my chest is breathing out and in, and I'm feeling the back rib cage, the sides, all the connective tissue. It's really cool. It's kind of trippy, actually. And this is a great place to begin with breath awareness. The next step would be diaphragmatic breathing, where we bring awareness to the belly, and as the diaphragm descends with the inhale breath, the belly rises. And so this is yet another step. I really want to encourage you to keep it simple, to keep it simple. Simply just observing breath is enough. The more we observe our breath, the better we learn to breathe. And the more conscious our breathing becomes, the more skillful, the better our health will become. Okay. And if you are interested, if you would like videos or specific workshops on techniques of breathing, I have done that in the past and happy to do it again. So let me know. Okay. So you want a clear space and ground and breathe. And these three things alone are going to make you feel a whole lot better. A whole lot better. Okay. Now, the fourth one has to do with the power of intention. And intention is really, really important. I cannot say enough about this. And I'll tell you a couple of stories that have made all the difference in my world. Okay, so who is here? Scott is here. Hello, and Tamianne. Okay, nice to see. Nice to see you. Intention is hugely important. Whether you're waking up in the morning. So I barely wake up. I was telling you about how I do this in the morning. I barely wake up. I find my spot. I align my head and get rid of the pillow. And I set myself up for a few breaths, and I'll show you the hand positions, couple different hand positions in a moment. But my intention is simply one of healing. And I swear when I set myself up in these positions, I feel like there's fairies at my ankles. There are there's angels around me. There are ancient healing masters. I start to get all these fuzzy feelings everywhere. It's really, really crazy. And all I do is I intend healing. That's all I do. And I use the word healing. I have quite a mantra practice. And so sometimes I will repeat a healing mantra a couple of times. Sometimes I will name a body part. So perhaps I'm having trouble with my digestion. So I will intend healing my digestion. Intention is really important. I really feel like if we don't ask, we don't receive. Ask and receive are kind of part and parcel with each other. So the nature of the intention doesn't have to be very specific, um, but it's really important to put out there. Early on in my journey with crystals, now this is several years ago, I had a very, I'll say, interesting fall. I was down at the beach walking my dog and I collapsed. My legs quite literally went out from underneath me, and one of my knees just gave way. I was teaching yoga. I was healthy. Um, There was no reason. Of course, I have a history of knee stuff, but it was so unexpected. I had been feeling no weakness, and I was down at the beach watching my daughter go away on a ferry to visit my ex-husband. I don't know if there was something in my subconscious that was just devastated. It certainly wasn't at the surface level. And so, that is the only thing that I can put together. This fall and it didn't look like a bad fall. I just kind of slumped down, but it wreaked havoc in my knee, my back, my hips, and it took me quite a while to heal. And I was staring at a piece of malachite that was on my windowsill in my bedroom. And I thought, I got to do something with this because I can't be this way. I need to teach yoga. I need to do other things. And so I took a piece of malachite and I assigned it a job. I assigned it the job of healing my knee. And I have done this before. It was a practice that I completely forgot about. And after that day, I started assigning a lot of my crystals specific jobs. And this might sound crazy, but it's one of the most satisfying things to do. Um, it's like you have these little helpers in the background. I have a vision right now of that scene. I think it's the first or maybe the second Harry Potter movie in the Weasley's house where Mrs. Weasley has all the kitchen dishes. Everything's automated, and the knitting needles are going by themselves. It's kind of like that. You have the power of intention can do all these miraculous things. But as far as your own self-care goes, it you must have faith, trust, and the intention to heal. There can be no doubt that you are healing and in the process of healing. It's so very, very important. Okay. All right. And the last one. And I will come back if you want to listen to this again. I'll come back and edit out that blip in the middle. Okay. Hands. So hands are a very important part of healing. If we're talking about chakras, the hands are connected to the energy of the heart. And I want to say the shoulders, the arms in extension, as well as the skin. If you think about this in general, how important a touch is, it, it's it, touch is so critical to our wellness. How beautiful it can feel just to have a light touch on your shoulder. If you think about something like butterfly kisses, right? This is really powerful stuff. And yes, all of this can be amplified through training, for sure. If you take a training with me, I'm doing an amazing training this spring. If you're interested in joining me here on the Sunshine Coast, it's 5 days, and we're going to do Reiki training. But what I'm saying here does not require any training. It does not require any um, special, powers. These are things that you can practice on your own. Okay. And one of the first things that I suggest is that people get to be familiar with the energy in their hands. And what you can do is just rub your hands together. So you understand that you begin to feel the heat in your hands. And for some people, closing the eyes is absolutely necessary. For some, not so much. And if you separate your hands just a little bit, you can feel little tingles, the energy in your hands. And then put your hands back together. And you may need to rub them again. And then take them a little further apart. And then bring them in close, but not so they touch. And then go a little further apart. And if you've lost the feeling, bring them back together and rub it again. And do you know what silly putty is? Maybe I'm showing my age. It's almost like there's this sticky string between your hands. And this is a practice. And you simply practice the feeling of energy. And if the more comfortable you get with this, the more you practice, the more you'll be able to feel it at greater distances. I can still feel it. Okay. And bring it back together. And it is such a powerful, powerful experience. Now, if you have been through a training where you received initiation is not the right word, but you receive a kind of a clearing from a Reiki master or some sort of healing master, then I believe that experience. So in the kind of training that I do, there's a the intention is clearing of the third eye as well as clearing of the crown chakra. I use the metaphor of a bottle brush. And so in a Reiki training, it's like somebody's putting a bottle brush down through your crown chakra and clearing you out, and then, bottle brushing your from your frontal point to your pineal gland. You do get better at it, but not but, and you can still practice this without having any sort of training. It's a really, I would say, the more you intend healing yourself, the more important it is to practice this and to trust this. You can also do this and then take a crystal and put it in your hand and work with the heat on the crystal and observe the change in temperature of the object that's in your hand. So there's lots of ways we can begin to develop our awareness of hands-on healing simply by um, practicing, simply by practicing. Once you get good at it, all you need to do is to find a word such as heal, or if I say the word Reiki, as soon as I say the word Reiki, my crown chakra goes tingle, 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 tingle. It's like the little lights go on. Um, I may say a name of a healer that inspires me, uh, any number of uh, intentions, and they may be in my mind, they may be articulated through my mouth. Some days it might be in the form of a long list of gratitude to all the healers that have gone before me. Um, and other times it might be one little word. And my voice. Now my voice is going. That's really interesting. Okay. So you're lying in bed. You've taken a breath. You're grounded. You're settled. Your spine is in alignment. Now, where are you going to put your hands? Where are you going to put your hands? And I would suggest that placing your hands on your belly is the best option. If you feel as if if this is awkward, then like I said, put pillows underneath your elbows. Put pillows underneath your elbows. It is very difficult to do this to yourself for any length of time. If you can get comfortable with your hands, in any position, you can lay your hands anywhere on your body. But the idea is you want to remain there for as long as possible, and I would say 15 minutes minimum. Now, we don't necessarily have 15 minutes, but ideally you want to stay for 15 minutes. And I would not distract myself by putting on a timer. You will know when you feel complete. If you are in a position where you can put your hands at the top, so in the crease of where your upper thighs are, so in your groin area. This is a very powerful plexus of nerves, and there's a lot of healing and calming energy that can happen with your hands a little bit lower down. So just sort of on the top of your thighs, right in that crease there. So that is another great place to place your hands. Okay, if you are anxious, if you are depressed, if you are having any issues of worry, self-esteem, then the belly is the best place on top of the navel center. Okay, so that is it's also a central point in the body. And there's also a theory that the energy will go exactly where it needs to go. So your hands are on your belly, but really you have a sore throat. It's going to go there anyway. It's truly an amazing medium to work with. Now, if I have a headache, if my eyes are fatigued and I'm feeling particularly like I want to direct my hands onto my eyes, then as I mentioned, I'm going to put props or supports underneath my elbows so I can place my hands and leave them in that position for an extended period of time. But depending on your range of motion, that's not really comfortable. Okay, so the best thing to do is place your hands on your belly. Now, another very basic tenet here is that your fingers. So, if your hands are in your groin, your fingers are going in a downward position. But for the most part, you want your fingers moving in an upward direction, and that also can be near impossible. But if possible, then that is a preferred position for your hands. Okay. Um, when I am done, when I'm finished, when I feel like I'm complete, then I simply just take a breath in and out, and I'm done. It's done. Some people have a fancy ritual for closing and all of that, and if you take a training, you will learn some ways to close a practice like this. But I feel like just an acknowledgement of this practice is now complete. Breathe in, breathe out, and you're done. And you go about your day or go back to work or whatever you're doing. So, this, all of these points, clearing space, grounding, breathing, intending, these to me are so much more than things I do when I'm healing. These are lifestyle choices. These are built in to my day, no matter what I'm doing, so that I'm always working. And I don't like that word working. So I'm always um, mindful of the power of energy. I was going to say working on my healing, which I am. I'm always working on my healing. So it's really, it's kind of a beautiful thing. And don't underestimate the power of touch and how much your touch can help someone. And you may or may not deliver that with intention, um, but it just might be something that's entirely intuitive, where you mindfully place your hand on somebody's arm or shoulder. This is a beautiful gesture. It's a beautiful way to connect with somebody heart to heart. Okay. So I hope these tips give you an idea of sort of where to begin with this. And if you are interested in further discussion, then let me know, and I'll make some more videos about this, because it's changed my life, and it's changed how I go about and um, be be in this world. Yeah, yeah. Um, and even if it's not about the training in the spring, please reach out if you have questions or requests, and you can always come back and put a request in the description. Sorry, in the comments below. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day. Namaste.